The story began with a tragedy in the modern world. Our main character lost her life in a sudden accident. She had been an ordinary graduate student, caught up in the routine of studying, researching, and working long hours for her professors. It was a quiet, uneventful life. She never questioned it, until it ended so abruptly. Dying without warning, without a reason, it felt unfair. But then, she woke up. When she opened her eyes, it wasn't the world she'd known. She was inside the pages of a romance novel she had once been reading. And not just as any character. She had become Seria Stern, the infamous villainess fated to die at the end of the story. As she caught her reflection, panic set in. She remembered how the novel ended, Seria kneeling before two men, both looking at her with cold fury. One of the male leads, ended her life with a swift strike of his sword. If this story plays out the same way, I'm going to die all over again, she realized. Suddenly, Seria opened her eyes again, this time in Rauch's arms, one of the male leads. They were lying in bed, wrapped in each other's embrace. She watched him silently, startled by the unfamiliar closeness. Why that face again? Rauch asked, toying with her hair. His tone was light, but there was something pointed behind his words. Seria's breath caught. Don't tell me you're thinking about Callus Hanniton. His voice tightened at the mention of the other man. She parted her lips, unsure how to respond. Callus, the original male lead, the heroine's destined love, had once been her fiancé. But he'd abandoned her without hesitation. Rauch, that's not it, she said quietly, meeting his gaze. I'm your wife. Rauch's expression shifted slightly. A small smile tugged at his lips. It's strange, she thought. The Seria in the novel was hated by nearly everyone. She had earned her reputation. So why is he looking at me like this? Rauch's fingers brushed hers gently. His voice dropped, calm but firm. Exactly. So keep holding me like that. Then, with a touch of warning. Remember, only I can make you an archduchess. Meanwhile, beneath the pale moonlight, another man stood alone. Callus Hanniton. The noble knight. The man who was meant to fall in love with the heroine. Now, he looked conflicted. Seria, he said, his voice steady but low. What must I do? She turned toward him, heart heavy. What will it take to win you back? He asked, his hand reaching for hers. Name it. I'll do whatever it takes. For a brief moment, the sincerity in his voice shook her. But she knew better than to be swayed. Elsewhere, Seria was caught off guard again. I'd love to watch you change into your wedding dress, a smiling woman said brightly as she entered the room. Seria blinked. Pardon? The lady only chuckled at her confusion. What? Does she seriously want to watch me undress? Seria wondered, feeling her face heat up. The woman leaned in, amused. Wasn't your mother a commoner who became a performer? Seria clenched her fists, holding back her reaction. Even the heroine has changed, she realized. Will I really be able to survive in this world where everything is shifting? Before all this, Seria remembered a moment before her reincarnation. A room filled with light. A woman stood before her. Seria, the voice called softly. Do you want to live? The woman stepped closer. Then think carefully. What did you wish for? What do you want to achieve? Seria also recalled a scene from the novel, her collapsing on her wedding day, coughing up blood. She remembered Rauch running toward her, calling her name, before everything went dark. The grand palace of the empire shimmered under the afternoon sun. Nobles in elegant gowns and tailored suits gathered in small groups, their conversations laced with curiosity and excitement. At the center of their attention stood Lena, the saint who had descended from the heavens, on the grand terrace. The future of the empire is already looking bright, one noblewoman said with admiration. A saint from the heavens. Truly, we are blessed, a man added with reverence. A young noblewoman smirked, pointing toward the terrace. Oh? Is that not your intended beside her, Lady Seria? Seria stepped forward, glancing out at the terrace where Callus stood beside Lena, draping his jacket over her shoulders. They seem rather close already, the young woman remarked with a hint of amusement. How enviable. Seria's jaw tightened as her emerald eyes narrowed. Her fiancé, Callus Hanniton, the noble knight promised to her, was tending to another woman. Callus, seriously? Our wedding is in a week. She forced her irritation down. The urge to storm down and confront him was strong, but too many eyes were on her. With a sharp exhale, She set her glass down a bit harder than intended.
I need to keep it together.
She smiled at the woman beside her. My fiancé is quite the social butterfly, she said lightly, forcing a laugh. Oh my. Are you still recovering from your cold, my lady? Yulia asked, stepping beside her. Later this evening, I'll prepare more medicine for you. It seems you'll be spending all day out here with your patient. Seria stiffened at the voice behind her. Your Grace, she stammered, bowing quickly. Grand Duke Rouch stood tall, his cold, pale blue eyes assessing her. He didn't speak right away. Lady Seria, he said at last. Yes, Your Grace.
His gaze shifted toward the terrace.
If you insist on lingering out here and fall ill, that meddlesome fiancé of yours might cause a scene, and call for a high priest. My apologies, Your Grace, she murmured. He studied her a moment longer, then spoke without emotion. The saint is to be escorted to the high church promptly. I won't tolerate any more disruption in my palace.
With that, he turned and left.
But, Your Grace, she started, but the words caught in her throat. He may seem cold now, Seria thought. But soon, he'll be gazing at Lena with adoration.
That's how the story ends.
As she watched the whispering nobles around her, the truth settled in her chest like a weight.
This isn't my world.
They were characters in a romance novel. A story where a girl named Lena, an ordinary college student, falls into a fantasy world and captures the hearts of powerful men, primary and secondary leads alike. And the villainess?
Seria Stern. The very body she now inhabited.
Seria, once revered as the Stern, a title granted to those blessed by the gods, had squandered her status with cruelty. Her reputation was beyond repair. Ask 100 people about her, and you'd get 150 negative opinions.
She had no allies.
Her family barely tolerated her. The first thought that struck her when she realized where, and who, she was?
I don't want to die. She had already died once. She wasn't about to let it happen again. Before Lena completely takes over the story, I have to survive. That means clearing out every threat Seria had made in her former life. The change wouldn't be easy, but she had to try. She remembered visiting Callus after he was injured. He lay on the bed, arms crossed. You once tried to cut off my arm, my lady, he muttered. What are you up to now? Stop squirming, Seria replied, kneeling beside him. Let me treat you. His frown deepened. Where did you get those herbs? From the cliffs below the church. Callus's eyes widened. You went there? Alone. She shrugged. This will help restore your arm. A silence followed. Seria knew Callus was the one destined to kill Seria Stern in the original story. If she wanted to survive, she had to earn his trust. Maybe even his affection. That day, by chance or fate, something shifted. Honestly, he muttered, turning his face away with a slight blush. What's brought on this change? From that moment on, their relationship changed. Eventually, they became lovers. One day, Callus stood before her with a serious expression. Why don't the two of us get married, Seria? She hesitated. In the original story, Callus ended his life after losing everything, including the heroine. If she could change that fate, if this proposal was real, maybe it was worth trying. So she agreed. Now, back on the terrace, Seria took a slow breath, her thoughts returning to the present. Yes. A minor adjustment to the storyline. If I step aside, maybe things will unfold more peacefully. Let Lena and the Duke fall in love. Let the novel follow its path. I won't interfere. That was the promise she made to herself. But then, a few days later, Lena appeared at her door. Oh, Callus is intended. It's such a pleasure to meet you, the girl beamed. Seria froze. The bright-eyed girl grabbed her hand with a smile that seemed to radiate sunshine. Lena, the heroine of this twisted tale. What the? I'm Lena, she said cheerfully. I've been looking forward to meeting you. Seria forced a smile. What is going on? I said I didn't want anything to do with them. Seria stood frozen, watching in quiet disbelief as Lena beamed at her with childlike enthusiasm. I'm Lena, she chirped. It's a bit embarrassing, but the others keep calling me a saint because I came from another world. Seria forced a polite smile. Yes, I've heard, my lady. She had done her best to avoid this girl. And yet here Lena was, standing right in front of her, eyes full of curiosity. I heard you're getting fitted for your wedding dress today. Is that right?
Seria's fingers curled slightly. Yes, my lady. What is she doing here? Lena clasped her hands, voice bright with excitement. A wedding dress from another world. How fascinating.
Seria inhaled sharply.
She remembered hearing Lena casually call Callus by his first name. They are already on a first-name basis? It had taken Seria nearly a year before Callus allowed her to call him that. Yet Lena, who'd only just arrived, was speaking so informally? Some things really don't change, do they? Lena turned back to her, still smiling. Oh, and Seria. Seria straightened, restraining the irritation that pricked at her skin. Yes, my lady. I'd love to watch you try on your wedding dress. A pause settled over the room. What? She wants to watch me undress?
Seria blinked, baffled.
The awkward silence was broken by a firm voice. Saint Lena. All eyes turned to Begonia, the esteemed designer known for her impeccable standards. She stepped forward, her tone polite but unmistakably sharp. I do apologize, but a wedding dress fitting is not meant for entertainment.
Seria exhaled quietly. Finally, someone sensible.
Begonia continued evenly. Such a privilege is typically reserved for the bride's attendants, close relatives, or intimate friends.
Her gaze was unflinching.
As of now, you are none of those. Lena flushed, her smile faltering. I'm sorry. I still haven't gotten used to the customs here.
Seria watched her carefully.
In the original story, Begonia was portrayed as a villain, wasn't she? If she remembered right, Callus dismissed Begonia not long after this scene, for treating Lena coldly. Lena turned to Seria again, more subdued. Well then, Seria, until we meet again. Seria's hands tightened slightly at her sides. Why is everything playing out exactly like the novel? Still, this time will be different, right?
That evening, Seria sat across from Callus during tea. You want to change designers? She asked, surprised.
Callus nodded, his expression unreadable. You were there. You saw how she spoke to Saint Lena. Someone chosen by the heavens should not be treated that way.
Seria's spine stiffened. You've got to be kidding me. Begonia had merely reminded Lena not to treat a private moment like a show. Callus kept his tone even.
Regardless of her intentions, it's best to replace her. Seria swallowed her frustration. Begonia only spoke to preserve my dignity, Callus. From a noble's point of view, Lena's behavior was, frankly, improper.
Callus faltered slightly.
But Lena was only. Did you just call the saint by name in front of your fiancé? Seria asked calmly, but her eyes were sharp.
Callus hesitated. That was thoughtless of me.
I apologize.
He cleared his throat.
As for Begonia, since I've been appointed Saint Lena's protector, it's important to ensure she's treated with care. Seria's hands tightened around her skirt.
Even this part is the same.
In the original story, Lena's powers destabilized shortly after arriving. To protect her, the High Church appointed a guardian from among the 17 houses.
And that guardian was Callus Hanaton. It had brought them closer. Too close. Seria's throat felt tight.
But I thought things would change because he was engaged to me. Are you upset that I didn't tell you sooner?
Callus asked gently. Seria forced herself to breathe.
I've been too complacent. If she let her emotions rule her now, it could unravel everything.
No, she said finally, smiling faintly. I understand, Callus. I can't let this story end the same way. Not again.
This time.
I'm going to live. Callus relaxed. I'm glad.
I was worried you'd be hurt.
He reached out slightly.
Thank you for understanding, my beloved.
Beloved, my foot.
Seria kept her expression neutral, but her thoughts churned. Later, Seria stepped out into the cold air, her thoughts tangled. The last time she'd seen Callus, a knight had burst in.
My lord.
The saint's powers have surged again. Without hesitation, Callus turned to Seria. I'm sorry, I have to go.
He ran off. Again.
Seria's hand trembled. It's been less than a day, and he's already running after her again. No wonder the original Seria lost it. It's exhausting trying to be decent. Lady Seria.
She turned. A man stood before her.
You seem unwell, my lady, he said politely. It was Elliot, the Knight Commander of House Burke. I heard you've been suffering from a cold. Today's inspection must have worn you out.
I'm fine.
This is my duty,
Seria replied calmly. There was more to the story.
Within Hausberg's territory lay a great glacier known as the Beast's Tomb. The barrier surrounding it had to be inspected regularly to prevent monster outbreaks.
And only Sterns like Seria had the divine power to do so.
In the original tale, Seria often neglected this duty.
But this time, she wouldn't. Not if she wanted to survive.
Why don't we finish for the day? Elliot offered.
Seria gave a small nod.
Shall we?
Just then, a new voice rang out.
Lady Seria.
They turned to see Duke Rouch approaching.
What are you doing here?
Seria asked, her voice softening slightly. Elliot bowed at once.
Your Grace. Seria's expression tensed as Rouch drew closer. For pity's sake, Lady Seria, he said, his voice cool.
Do you not hear me calling you?
Seria looked uncertain. Pardon? Did I do something wrong? She asked, her voice tense. His gaze was sharp, fixing on her with intensity. What could have possessed you to come out to the lake in winter while you're ill? Seria took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Thank you for your concern, but it's not serious.
And this? She gestured to the lake.
This is something I must do as a Stern. Rouch crossed his arms, not convinced.
Since when did you take your duty so seriously?
Or is this some sort of effort to get your fiancé's attention? He glanced at Elliot, who appeared just as tense. Seria stiffened at the implication. Your Grace, she said carefully.
I didn't come here for that.
And no matter how sick I am, my betrothed wouldn't make a fuss in your palace.
Rouch's eyes narrowed.
Is it because of that saint?
Seria froze.
What do you mean by that? Is Lord Callus involved with her?
Rouch's words cut through the air. Seria's hands clenched into fists. How could he say such a thing?
Her mind raced, shocked by the accusation. As they walked further into the forest, Rouch turned to Elliot. Has the inspection been completed? Thanks to Lady Seria's hard work, it was finished quickly, Elliot said, offering her praise. For a moment, Seria felt a sense of accomplishment, but it was short-lived as she noticed Rouch's silent demeanor. Who does he think he is, acting all superior?
She thought.
Well, he is the male lead, and handsome to boot.
Why does he have to be such a pain?
Rouch's gaze flicked toward her, but he quickly turned away.
Then it's time we return, he said.
Yes, Your Grace. Elliot saluted before heading off. Seria hesitated, then followed Rouch. We almost made eye contact, she mused. We mustn't let the precious Stern's health deteriorate any further, Rouch said as he walked ahead.
After all his sharp comments? Seria thought, frowning. Back at the palace, Seria's mind was clouded. Does he like me more than I thought? She quickly shook the thought off.
No, it's better to avoid him. There's something about him that's unnerving.
He's the scariest one out of all of them. Not to mention the way he speaks. I just want this wedding over with so I can leave. She sighed internally.
The only reason she stayed at Hausberg's palace was because of the Stern's holy status. Their special duties, including performing the wedding rites at specific locations, required her presence here.
She sat down, thinking.
Stupid book. I wanted to avoid the wedding here, especially since this is where Lena and Rouch get married in the end. Wait, Lena was actually a Stern too?
I should have figured it out.
She's the main character, but still, isn't that a bit too convenient?
A saint and a Stern?
No wonder the original Seria was so jealous of her.
She sighed. The truth will come out in the end. I just need to get married and leave quietly.
My lady, a familiar voice called. Seria looked up, a smile spreading across her face. BB. Abigail Orion, her escort knight, had returned.
Seria took her hands warmly. How was the beast expedition? Did you make it back in one piece?
You weren't hurt, were you? Please, take a breath, my lady, BB chuckled. Seria gave her a suspicious look. You didn't text anyone, did you? She whispered.
BB smirked.
I've told you, I only deal with criminals. Everything went fine, though I did miss you when my armor was as cold as ice.
Seria sighed.
I should have gone along.
She thought about how important Sterns were in this world.
Their magic, known as star armor, protected knights from poison in battle. Without Sterns, knights faced a risk of losing body heat from prolonged exposure to the armor while fighting demonic beasts. BB placed her coat over Seria's shoulders. We should hurry inside. You're going to catch a cold. We can't let our precious Stern's health deteriorate, she added softly. Seria understood Rauch's earlier concern. At least for now, I'm still the precious Stern. She smiled, her spirits lifted. Let's go in, BB. I want to hear everything. Inwardly, Seria hoped to solidify her position before Lena realized what was happening. Meanwhile, from her room, Lena watched Seria and BB from the window. Lady Seria has changed a lot in the past year, a butler remarked, observing her closely. Why does Callus's fiancé visit the glacier every day? Lena asked, turning to meet his gaze.
Because she's a Stern.
Only Sterns can purify the lake's barrier, the butler explained. She's been getting praise for her work around the palace, he added.
Lena's expression hardened.
I envy her, she muttered.
Pardon?
You're already considered a saint, my lady, the butler said, slightly tense. But doesn't Stern sound more impressive?
Lena mused.
The glacier can only be purified by a Stern's magic. That's why everyone's so interested in her. Even with my divine power, I can't do that. The butler offered a reassuring smile. A splendid reception will soon be held in your honor, Saint Lena. But first, we'll need to go over all the proper etiquette. Besides, not just anyone can become a Stern, he added. They are born on Wednesdays in winter, with divine power and a star somewhere on their body. Lena's gaze darkened as she returned to watching the window, not paying attention to his words. Stern. I'm so envious, she muttered. In her room, Seria was attended by her handmaiden. Your birthday is soon, Lady Seria. Here, some syrup for your cold, the maid added, holding out a spoon.
Seria blinked in surprise.
Ah, that's right. I've been so busy, I forgot. Seria had been born on a wintry Wednesday, a detail significant to her life.
According to an old rhyme,
a child born on Monday has a lovely face. A child born on Tuesday is filled with the God's grace. A child born on Wednesday is full of sorrow.
But a child born on Thursday brims with all the love of tomorrow. A child born on Friday shows others kindness.
The rhyme described a person who met several conditions, one of which was being born on a wintry Wednesday, a key to earning the title of Stern.
Seria had always found it unfair.
In the original novel, she had thought the rhyme unjust. But now, as a Stern herself, she embraced her birthdate with pride. She had officially become a Stern on her 15th birthday, when a small star appeared on her ivory neck. That moment marked the abandonment of her family name, Keladon, and the adoption of her new title. It had only worsened her strained relationship with her family. As Seria reflected on her past, her servant approached, voice filled with concern. My lady, the saint has shown a great deal of interest in Constellation Steel. It's becoming quite worrisome.
Seria frowned.
Isn't it dangerous for her to get close to Constellation Steel before her powers have stabilized? Lena and Constellation Steel?
Seria thought.
She really does have an inquisitive nature.
That's right.
She's full of curiosity, just like any typical female protagonist, Seria muttered to herself. In the original story, Lena had awakened as a Stern after touching a Constellation Steel monolith.
But Seria didn't dwell on it.
Once the wedding was over, she planned to retreat to House Hannington's dominion and let the story unfold. That was the plan, but she kept bumping into Rauch. A few minutes earlier, Seria had wandered through the green garden vault, admiring the silver laurel boughs. No matter how many times she saw them, they never failed to amaze her. If a Stern were to become a plant, wouldn't they look just like this? She mused. The silver laurel was essential for inspecting the glacier. Its branches could strengthen and purify the barrier, a substitute for nights when a Stern wasn't available.
Should I ask BB to come with me today?
Before she could decide, a familiar deep voice interrupted her thoughts. You appear in quite high spirits, Lady Seria. Seria turned quickly. Your Grace? Oh, greetings. She barely had time to collect herself before Rauch asked, Are you visiting the frozen lake again today? Oh, yes, I am, she stammered. Rauch studied her as he helped her pick some silver laurel branches, pausing before speaking. I'm not sure I understand. Pardon? Seria asked, confused. As far as I'm aware, ample care has been taken with your chambers. Do you still find them lacking?
Seria was momentarily puzzled.
What is he talking about? Otherwise, it hardly seems necessary for you to inspect the glacier with such zeal. Oh, she responded. Rauch tilted his head slightly. Isn't your recent diligence because you want something? Actually, that isn't exactly. She started, but he cut her short. Every time you visit my palace, you run about shrieking whenever something isn't to your liking, he continued, his expression unreadable. Over 100 servants were left bedridden after serving you.
Seria stiffened. Come on, Seria. She scolded herself.
Which means I must work harder around here for the sake of those 100 people's past suffering, she thought quickly, feeling tense.
Rauch wore a slight grin.
You really are quite the enigma. His gaze lingered on her before he added, it may prove somewhat of a pity when you leave for House Honiton.
A pity?
To whom?
To this guy.
Wow, what is this? Seria wondered, watching him as their gazes met. Back in her room, Seria looked dumbfounded, holding her teacup in her hand.
Seriously, what's going on? She thought.
My lady, your wedding presents have just arrived. Come take a look at them, her maid said excitedly, hurrying over to the pile of gifts. Seria examined the lavish gifts before her. This sapphire was sent by Marquis Honiton himself.
What clarity!
And the color is so deep, the maids exclaimed happily. Rauch's words from earlier echoed in her mind. A pity, huh? She wondered, staring at her reflection in the tea. Hearing the male lead say something like that almost felt like a guarantee that she'd make it through all of this. For the first time, she felt miles away from the doomed ending she had feared. Now she could finally focus on the wedding, Seria thought. Here, my lady. I've also prepared the bracelet you requested, one maid said, walking up with a small box. Callis had given her so much. She wanted to return the favor by giving him something before the ceremony. You're going to give that to Marquis Callis, aren't you, my lady?
Oh my!
How absolutely romantic, another maid chimed in.
Seria smiled.
Doesn't Lena discover a magic crystal mine in the original story? Until that happened, these were considered extremely precious gems.
Callis would surely appreciate it, she thought calmly.
Lady Seria. Her handmaiden came running in, face pale with panic.
It's a catastrophe. The saint. Seria immediately tensed.
Lady Lena. She collapsed after touching the constellation's steel monument. Not only that, the monument itself turned transparent and began to shine, the maid added, causing Seria's gaze to widen in shock. Seria felt a chill run down her spine. That means, a new stone has appeared, she thought. In Lena's room, Seria watched in disbelief as Lena winced in pain, a nun holding her hand. This doesn't make sense. We're still only in the early stages of the story. Lena's awakening as a stern was supposed to happen closer to the end, wasn't it? Seria's mind raced, trying to understand the unexpected turn of events. Rauch stepped into the room. How is the saint's condition? He asked, turning to Lena's butler.
The doctor bowed.
Your Grace, fortunately, the worst has passed, thanks to Marquis Honiton's presence at her side. Seria glanced at Callis, who was standing by Lena's bed. He hadn't noticed her entrance. A high priest, standing nearby, spoke with reverence. A new stone has appeared, Your Grace. Saint Lena will surely repay any kindness you bestow upon her. Rauch shifted his gaze to Seria. Lady Seria, were you also affected in such a way when you awakened as a stern?
Seria hesitated before replying.
No, Your Grace. My divine power is nowhere near as great as hers.
Rauch nodded thoughtfully.
The effects a person experiences from constellation steel are directly proportional to the magnitude of their power. That means the saint must have known her body was overflowing with divine power. Yet, she still insisted on touching constellation steel, causing such an uproar in my palace.
His expression grew serious.
Seria considered his words. Oh, well, maybe she never thought it was possible that she could be as stern. Rauch's gaze hardened. You are the one overseeing the saint's lessons, aren't you? Then tell me, why would she do such a thing? He asked, turning to the butler. Perhaps, it was because she admires Lady Seria, the butler suggested.
Seria was stunned.
Admire me, she thought. But why? This is my fault, Your Grace, the butler said quickly, bowing his head.
Rauch smirked slightly. Good.
At least you have some awareness.
Seria's mind was in turmoil.
Did Lena really touch the constellation steel out of admiration for her, or was she trying to confirm if she was a stern? In the novel, Lena had accidentally touched the constellation steel, triggering her divine power in a violent surge that nearly killed her. That's when her identity as a stern had been revealed.
But this time? Did Lena touch it intentionally?
Or was it out of admiration for me? Seria wondered. That's so different from the original story. Lennon, Rauch's chief aide, entered the room and bowed. Your Grace, the Lady Saint has awakened.
Rauch sighed.
Good. Let us be on our way then.
Lennon hesitated.
Your Grace, wouldn't it be good to at least check on her? Rauch cut him off.
Do I look like the saint's nursemaid?
He paused, then added, for the sake of relations with the high priests, fine. Let's go see her. Seria nodded, though she wasn't sure if it was out of curiosity or obligation. Together, they made their way to Lena's chamber. Inside, Lena stirred weakly. Callus?
Callus immediately took her hand.
Lena, it hurts so much. His voice was full of concern, and Seria watched silently, her heart tightening.
Don't worry, Lena. You'll be fine.
I'm right here, Callus reassured her.
Seria's grip tightened on her skirt.
Should I cut off his hand? Phoebe whispered in her mind. Rauch, however, grew impatient with the scene before him.
He turned to his aide.
As you know, the Burke estate is incredibly busy in winter. I can't afford to keep this nuisance in my palace any longer.
Seria's mind froze.
Did he just call her a nuisance? Rauch continued, unbothered by the tension in the room. Lennon, send word to the High Church that Saint Lena will be returning as soon as she is able to move. Yes, Your Grace, Lennon replied. Callus, his face dark with anger, turned to Rauch. Your Grace, isn't that a bit excessive?
It wasn't her choice to become ill, and calling an invalid a nuisance.
His voice was sharp, his gaze momentarily drifting away from Lena.
Rauch smirked.
Well, Marquis Hannington, can't I speak freely in my own palace? Callus clenched his fists. Still, it's harsh. She's an invalid. Rauch remained impassive.
It's good you mentioned that. Your betrothed's condition isn't ideal either.
Aren't your priorities a bit skewed? People may mistake the saint for your fiancé instead of Lady Seria, he said, catching Callus off guard. Seria flinched at his words.
Her mind spun.
I wasn't angry at Callus for being concerned about Lena. She had never allowed herself to show emotion, never let herself get angry, always enduring everything to avoid the tragic fate that awaited her in the novel. This will be the first stern wedding ceremony we've had in some time, Rauch said, his tone firm. We must keep such vows sacred.
Seria swallowed the lump in her throat. This is so embarrassing.
I just want peace. Callus and Lena.
I just want all of this to end, she thought, her eyes closing. Rauch's voice broke through her thoughts.
My lady, shall we take our leave?
The saint needs tranquility. Come now, he urged, offering his hand. Callus looked up, startled.
Seria. Lena whimpered, gripping Callus's hand. Callus. Callus hesitated, torn between Seria and Lena. Rauch gently took Seria's hand. My lady, shall we go? He asked softly. Seria exhaled, steadying herself. Yes, Your Grace. Without a glance back, she followed Rauch out of the room, leaving Callus behind.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible adventure. If you enjoyed what you watched, please consider liking, subscribing, and ringing that notification bell. Your comments mean the world to us and help us improve. The next episode promises even more excitement and unexpected twists, so stay tuned as we embark on this thrilling journey together. Keep the anticipation alive, and we'll catch you in the next episode.